You know what DC superheroes taught me? Shoot my parents with a shotgun. That was a weird episode.
But yeah, damn Batgirl.
Why's it gotta be that?
She's the only one without powers. She had to use a weapon.
It's all good. I mean, we know about it, so we just move forward.
Yeah, it's once I can set up somewhere that isn't here or move it a little farther away. Shut up, fridge. Son of a bitch.
Don't talk bad about it. It keeps your food safe.
It's a new fridge. I have to break it. I have to break its spirit.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
We all know it's one of those Transformers too.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is just going to translate into like a really sad guy that's hunched over in the house, like, ow.
It's one of the rejected Decepticons.
It's just like opens up its fridge stomach, grabs a beer, drinks it.
And it
So
in
the
the
beer's
cycle.
just pouring out onto the ground as it pours it through, just watching it soak everything else.
Yeah. Well, they've drank oil at the McCadden's bar, so they drink Energon.
Bar?
Yeah, they have a bar and they drink oil and Energon. So, I mean,
Energon. You mean the cracker of robotics?
The cracker robotics, yes.
They are literally like meth heads when it comes to Energon.
I do feel like the moment they catch their child, like a young Autobot catches, like a parent Autobot catches child Autobot on Energon, there's an immediate fist fight. Like, hey, how dare you, don't bring that into this house.
There's not I learned it from watching you, all right? I learned it from
100%.
watching you.
It's yours?
No,
My mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not.
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
And for some reason, it's got like the mustache that Eric Idle's Transformer had in the movie.
The pervy pirate mustache.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you talking bad about Wreck-Gar? How dare you?
Was he supposed to be a Buccaneer pirate or a Buccaneer Transformer?
He's essentially they were a pirate like in a planet of junk, so they're all rebuilt from different bots and different things. Cybertronian physiology is very questionable. Let's just say.
I was going to say, does that make him like? Is he a Frankenstein? Is he dead? Did he die at some point?
He like there's plenty of times where you see them get blown up and they just somebody else grabs him and puts him back together, and
it actually doesn't make.
No, Eric Idle was hold on.
No, I'm sorry. Eric Idle was not Blur. He was Wheelie.
Yeah, now you're just throwing words out there that don't make any sense.
I don't think that's true.
Am I just completely confused?
Who did he play? Like some Transformers. I have friends who are Transformers fans. They're just like, you're a moron, Ken. Get it together.
He was Eric Idle was Wreck-Gar. Yeah.
He was Wreck-Gar?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Because he's you talk TV, we talk TV. But
Exactly.
his voice changes. That's okay. It makes more sense now.
So he was supposed to be a Buccaneer.
They just went with vague pirate and ran with it. So.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and I'm not sure what the distinction between a pirate, a privateer, and a buccaneer are. So let's be clear about that too. I lack that knowledge.
Well, I mean, we could always Google it, but that's not fun.
Yeah,
I think I have had to look that up previously for Dungeons and Dragons, and it was enough that we're like, I don't want to remember this.
I'm gonna guess a buccaneer is like a sanctioned pirate, essentially.
I believe a buccaneer is a 43-year-old NFL player that's on steroids to extend their career.
A privateer is the sanctioned pirate. I do know that.
Yeah, they're the paid pirate.
Yeah, it's one sanctioned by the government.
Well, that's a lot of B-roll for nothing. But with that being said, let's start talking about adult cartoons.
I'm in the doc trying to find it. What's it under?
Adult-oriented animation
content. It's like the first topic under podcast topics.
Is it though?
I don't know. Refresh your Outlook or your OneNote, maybe.
It is though.
All right, I'll.
Or Are you in OneNote? Are you hanging out in Hangouts again?
No, I'm in OneNote.
Looking for friends.
KMP podcast.
Yeah, you need to refresh it because I think the title's changed. So, or like resync it.
All right, I'll resync it. Notebooks. Sync this notebook.
Come on, you.
Oh, there we go. It's
there
still, by the way, it's still titled KMP Podcast, which is cool.
It shouldn't be.
It is on mine.
Is it on yours, Pat?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Huh.
It's still that's the least of the. Now that I have that content, that's definitely more helpful.
Okay.
I'm now on the same.
I went in and tried to give us a brief like starting point. Basically, I didn't do a ton of extra research, but at least got the overview, and then there's like a brief history of like the transition from adult content, like the adult cartoons, which is like some of the old Betty Boop, I guess, or whatever, and type style animation, to the eventual like emergence of stuff like Family Guy and The Simpsons, things like that, which helped pave way for more other adult-oriented stuff like Rocko's Modern Life and things like that. So we have that kind of background behind it.
I think Rocko's does walk that line though. Like Pat said, like it's geared more towards young adults than it is adults. With Rocko's, I would imagine that'd be my take. I mean, and then as the show aged, I'm saying as the show and the audience aged, now it's an adult show. Like it's comeback. I'm sorry, are we still in the preamble here?
No. Let's just go with it. Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's the magic of editing, buddy. But that was our discussion we were just having right before you jumped on. Was like, what qualifies as adult to? I guess at that point, is it just the way we perceive it as we get older?
I mean, I think that what would differentiate adult / mature animation versus something that adults can enjoy is if the audience, like a good cartoon should be able to speak to kids and to adults. So the adults are stuck watching it, still enjoy it as well, or it doesn't speak down to kids. Whereas an adult animation series is like, oh no, this is not for kids. The blood, the gore, the dark humor, and there's not necessarily an in for a young viewer to be like, oh yeah, this is totally reasonable for me to be watching, and it just comes down to content. I would kind of say.
Arnold, you make my girlhood tremble.
How did this make it into a kids show?
Intended audience.
Yeah.
I look at something like Kareem, I'm looking at your favorite list, and Avatar: The Last Airbender is obviously a fantastic cartoon, and it's great and can be enjoyed by everyone. But it was made for kids initially. Legend of Korra obviously was made for a little older audience, but still not made specifically with adults in mind.
Why not is what I'm wondering, because I mean, like, again, all of the themes in both series are pretty adult. Like,
yes and no. They are with Airbender to Korra, it is meant to also age with the audience a bit as well. So there's that aspect of it. But Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original series, was 100% geared towards children. That was the intended audience. Is that what they said? That's what they said. That's definitely the intention.
I'll have to look that up because I don't know if that was necessarily the case.
It was. I just said so.
And
well, so I'm saying I'm going to have to look it up and make sure what they said though, because again, it seems it was the premise itself is super adult. Like, I don't know how many kids are going to understand like the basic enslavement of the world by one race, and that be a child theme.
I mean, you can have adult themes in a child and still have it geared towards children. It's once again, you're not speaking down to the kids. Like, this is the world that's been established. You understand that. But in terms of the way they speak to one another, some of the pratfalls and the general vibe of the cartoon, it is much more, at the very least, much more accessible to children. And it was on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
It wasn't on Nick at Night. It was on something like Adult Swim. It was on Nickelodeon.
Was it Teen Nick?
Yeah, which is in of itself geared towards children. That doesn't mean adults can't enjoy it and get a lot out of it, But it's like the argument about Star Wars. Like, oh, I like Star Wars back in the day, not now. It's not made for you now. Like, it's made for a younger audience. It's going to have their sensibilities.
Yeah. So that's and they did purposely walk that line because they as we spoke to the not speaking down to kids, you can still teach them new things and have the lessons that they want you to see, but not have to like sugarcoat it in just like, 2 + 2 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4. I see what kids like this.
Whoa. Slow down. I'm not keeping up.
Okay. So apparently 2. You bringing in another 2? When 2 2s love each other, they come together.
Okay, but which 2 is on a train and where's the train headed to? And at what speed is it going?
Where are the apples? Ever answers.
So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see where, especially with Korra, because Korra, as we spoke to the oh god, we just talked about another show that aged with its viewers. Oh, Rocko's Modern Life. As with that, you have the original time period it's released, and then if you come back to it 5 years later and you gear it directly towards the original demographic to where they would be now, it's going to be more mature. So
okay, but I'm not talking about like rehashing the original medium. I'm talking about like if we were to watch the original Rocko now, we would say it's very adult themed without changing anything. Like we're not remaking it or making it a new version for adults. If we were to just go back and watch the one we watched when we were like 13 or 14.
The phone operator. I can do that. Good night. Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. Rocko? Mrs. Bighead?
All right, Rocko. We know what kind of specialty phone line that was.
Having adult themes doesn't make a show geared for adults. Once again, it's not speaking down to your audience, but you're still making it much more accessible to kids. There are moments in Avatar where it's like, oh, this is a kid's show, 100%. Those get less and less as the show moves on. As it delves deeper into its plot, it does become a little more mature, and then that maturity carries over to Legend of Korra. But like Ken pointed out, it is aging the show with it. You can do that same thing, but it's still a show that was like, oh, this show was initially intended for kids.
So then how do you...
Also, too, there's also times where the demographics that they aim them for, where it's like, oh no, this is more for the, let's say the 7 to 10 audience, and then they're like, oh, but we also have shows that are more that tween audience, and then they also have like different demos are set there that like, oh, we want to try and aim for a very specific area, but we're also, if we pick up these other viewers too, we're good with that. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, you can have like, oh, there's like this episode deals with death. Okay. Kids can learn about death. It can help to build their emotional maturity at a young age if you bring it to them and have it in digestible, understandable ways so that they can then be, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but they can.
Yeah, you liberals do want to use that word, don't you?
Yeah. So that they can be presented with this so that they can emotionally learn how to adjust to that. And those are stories that don't necessarily have to have an age, because anyone can experience grief. And if it teaches a kid that could be very helpful to them.
Okay. All right. Well, then would a show like the Boondocks be for kids?
No.
Why not?
Because I think the comic strip was very much geared towards an adult audience with more of a high-minded idea and able to speak to the idea of like, yes, these are kids in the show, but they are far exceeding their realistic points of view. And again, where you kind of think of, okay, where is it being presented? It's on Adult Swim. It is on Cartoon Network, but it is specifically within a block of time set post prime time, so that it's like, no, this is for adults to watch and for them to view. That's the target. That's their intended viewership, was adults.
It is the way, and even if you look at something like the way the Boondocks handles something that Avatar handles, like death is a good example. They both have episodes about death, and they are handled in very different ways. And they are also, the humor is extremely different. Like the humor ages up pretty dramatically pretty quickly when it comes to the Boondocks. Uncle Ruckus is not gonna work on Avatar. Just throwing it out there. Okay, maybe Avatar, the James Cameron movie, but not the cartoon.
Okay, all right.
Now there's another. It's geared for kids, but adults enjoy it. But it's a different reason. Things like X-Men the animated series.
Now that is a shame, locking up a big, good-looking hunk of mutant like that.
That is geared towards kids, but adults enjoy it because it's the comics that they grew up with, and also it's really violent. There's a lot of people getting blown up. Now they don't show.
There's no blood. There's no.
Yeah, no, but
it is. It's comic book violence. That's why we have that term now. It's because it's just like piff bam boom. Like there's no blood. There's maybe a punch. There's like I was watching. So we're on the cusp of. I mean, I'm jumping the gun maybe a little bit here. We're getting ready for the release of a new He-Man series, and with that series, one of the creative forces behind the He-Man line was speaking to like, oh, back then with the original He-Man, you couldn't even have him use his sword on anyone. It's like, oh, I'm going to cut down this boulder. It's going to fall and that'll stop someone. They can never lay flesh on flesh. He could never punch someone. The closest they came was like bending Trapjaw's arm because it's metal. It's like, oh, I bent your arm. It's like, oh no. Like they're prohibited from having X amount of violence because like, oh, it's still for kids. So they could copy this, which is something that, other shows have like, okay, is it imitatable activities? Can they imitate this? Then we shouldn't have kids watch this because kids are impressionable, and that's the thought there.
Yeah.
At the time.
Because I was going to say that would definitely not apply for Avatar.
Yeah, well, kids can't also airbend. Just
but they could definitely karate chop like Sokka can. Like he uses weapons and fisticuffs on other people.
What if they find a meteorite and make a sword out of it? You don't know.
What if they like earthbend by just throwing a rock?
I'm curious if in your research did you check and see, did anyone say, hey, I saw this person earthbend in the schoolyard. Let's get rid of this Avatar.
No. The only anger at Avatar is that Korra turned out to be a lesbian, and that pissed everybody off. That's anything angry at Avatar.
That wasn't even in canon though.
Yeah.
Oh, is that part of the?
No, that's 100%.
That's part of the comic series.
No, that's the last episode. That's and the comics are in canon.
In the last episode, you watch it. There's no official she's a lesbian. They just hang out together in the Avatar world or whatever.
She did not get the official lesbian jacket and award.
Exactly.
She
doesn't get the actual like.
I thought they had a kiss
flag or no.
It's been a while since I've watched it. I guess I need to go back but it's officially recognized by Brian and Mike, the creators of the show, that is the canon. And to the point, the comics are actually
because the comics embrace it and they come back after they come back from their vacation. They are together.
I mean, they're together when they leave when they go on vacation. They're going in the hand holding of love. Like it is there. It's implied, but because it is a kids show, they probably still felt pushback.
Hey, I mean, I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying from the very last episode, there is an argument, a very heavy one to be made, that she's not a lesbian. There's no indication that she is going into that last episode, the very end of it.
You say there's no indication. I disagree. I feel it is indicated, but there's no confirmation. I'll say there's no confirmation.
There's heavy coding.
Yeah. Thank you for the better term.
Well, again,
I've been reading a lot about X-Men lately.
Based on their histories, though, I mean, we're inferring that. But based on both their dating histories, there's no reason to believe that either one of them would be.
I mean,
cute. Korra, is that the handsome firebender boy that drives you crazy? Does he drive you crazy in a bad way? Or does he drive you crazy like you like him?
It just after Mako, no other man would do, and so they're like, you know what? Let's explore what other options we have.
Oh, I'm sure the feminists are gonna love hearing that one.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, that's fine. I'll take the hate. Go ahead and hit me up at Cole Garrison 23 on Instagram and Twitter.
You really set him up for that one.
It's okay. He doesn't listen to this.
I thought his name was Ken.
Ken Cole, his full name.
Yeah.
All right. So then, and I think a clear adult animated one, I mean, at least for me, because I'm having trouble with this apparently, is Cowboy Bebop, right? That's a clear like adult, not meant for kids cartoon, right? Or animation.
I would want to say yes. However, I do know that because, and as we spoke to it earlier, of like, oh, at the time this was how things were done, but then there's also the delineation of that at the time in Japan
is a little different.
That's a little different too, because we not living in that culture. I can't speak to that. I believe it was geared. I can't speak to that. That's something I think we'd have to have someone with a little more experience with the history, and that's an interesting point. Like while I've watched it, I do see where it could be geared towards an older audience, but then again, you still, like we were talking earlier, you still have that, oh, this is for the 15 to 18 demographic, which still counts as kids, but because they also have different senses of what's culturally acceptable at the time.
Yeah,
they have it's one of those things where it's like, okay, where is this on the fence? Where is this? It's on a spectrum, as is everything. So where in the spectrum does this land for versus kids, young adults, children? Like, where does this all fall?
Cowboy Bebop definitely tends older, but once again, you're dealing with an entirely different culture that we are not immersed in the slightest. I would agree with Ken that it's probably more towards like older teenagers, like mid to older teenagers, if I had to guess. But you still have the anime pratfalls. Like, you still have the one that throws me off when it comes to anime is something like Death Note, because there's a lot of teen angst in it, but it is dark. Is not, but it definitely deals with a lot of teen angst that would be geared towards like at least a teenage audience.
Okay.
And actually, come to think of it too, like, so you do have to base it. I mean, I don't know about the full history of Cowboy Bebop. I don't know if it started out as a manga first. So then you do have, there is the, like, all like the mangas that we have at the comic shop, they have ratings on them. They have, older teen, young child, and they give you ratings for like, oh, well, if they want to read Fruits Basket, like that's definitely geared towards this age demographic. I'm curious if Cowboy Bebop, I don't know, that's actually my bad, as I should know if that came out as a manga first or developed directly to an anime, and then like where that falls.
Well, I feel like with all of this being said, I feel like most of these animations could just be geared towards the middle, which is just young adult. And then everything.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
It's still young adult.
Teen's right in the name.
Yeah. Come on, Pat.
It's fair. That's 100% fair. I think there is like
something like Force doesn't roll off the tongue.
Aqua Super Adult Very Inappropriate Hunger Force.
There you go.
Like C-Lab 2021. All those old Adult Swim cartoons are very much like, oh no, this is not at least 18 years old. You're at very least you need
the
to
commercial.
Be
I don't know. I feel like young adults could still grasp
the lead-in for that says all kids out of the pool. It's time for Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And that's that what's the name of those? Not the header, but they have a term for
title card.
Title card, yeah, essentially.
Disclaimer,
like a bumper, like the beginning bumper before, is like, all kids out of the pool. It's time for Adult Swim. Like, turn off your TVs. Your children stop watching this.
Let's be honest. Immediately,
Adult Swim.
Every child's just turning it on.
What's up? Yeah. What shows were on Adult Swim that would be classified beyond young teen or young? Yeah.
Well, when you're saying young adult, that's not a kid anymore. Are you saying beyond like a 15-year-old, like a teenager?
I would say beyond like 13 or 14, like teens, right? You go 12, 13, 14 is your teenager, your young adult.
I think the intended audience for most of that is beyond that age. I think the intended audience for that, it's like an R rating. It's like 17 and above is really what it's intended for.
Oh, so that's what we're going to classify adult as now, is 17 and up for this discussion. That's why I'm going to make this.
Yeah, I think we need to establish the boundaries for age, because like you said, there are different cultures that have different maturity levels and different ways that they interpret, any type of theme. So we have to figure out what classifies as a young adult, generally speaking, what classifies as a young teen, I guess, and then what classifies as a kid.
Okay. So let's do this with some examples, and let's see if we can come to an agreement.
We can work this out.
Yeah,
we can work it out.
But we can't, though. We can't.
No, we can't.
Okay. All right.
We're just like the Senate.
I
don't want to work it out.
I won't vote for nothing. Let's low-hanging fruit. Invincible.
Ooh, I'd say teen to adult. I think a 13 or 14-year-old would be able to understand Invincible pretty easily.
Well, understanding and geared towards are two different things. I have no doubt.
What do you mean by that's what I'm saying? You keep saying geared towards, but I feel like the audience,
target audience. Who is who? When Netflix creates a show and like, all right, we're targeting women age 19 to 27, white or partially white, and they love wine. And we made this movie and we shot it out.
How dare you call it homework again? What is it? We know what it is. Don't you play dumb.
But that is what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking target audience. Who did they make this in mind? When
see, that's the problem, though, is that like we always say that's a problem, but this is really the problem. Is that a lot of this is coming from source material. So you have like the comic Invincible, where again it's accessible to kids that are 13, 14 years old. So any of the themes, any of the like violence and gore and the stuff like that is already presented to them. Now they're just watching it in full animation versus still pictures.
Right. So
when we say something like Lifetime, that's not really original because they're all basically cookie cutter versions of each other, but that's an original concept that you have to now think of who to aim that towards.
So, I mean, let's pull it from the context of the show. It is rated 18 plus.
Well, that ends that.
What's up?
So, well, that ends that argument.
Yeah,
good on you.
I pulled up the app and like, oh, it's 18 plus. I was also pulling up to the parental guidelines for TV viewership. So you've got TVY, TVY7, TVG. That's guidance. Or wait, actually, what's TVG compared? Because there's also TVPG. Well, what's the difference between
parental
PG?
Guidance?
Anybody can guide you if you're TVG.
Yeah, there's also
yourself. Choose your adventure.
TV14 and TVMA for a mature audience. We kind of get that, but actually I'm more puzzled by the TVY7. So essentially 7 up and then below. Okay, so 2 to 6 is the Y.
Okay.
What's going on between G and PG?
Also, I would like to point out only
lots of sex
on this show has children, and I would assume would know more about this rating system, but clearly.
TVY means that this content is suitable for younger children. All ages admitted. TVY7 means that this content is suitable for children 7 or older. Similar to TVY, but for ages 7 or older. TVY7 is actionful for younger children that are 7 or older. TVG means general audiences. This content may be suitable for all ages. This content is not really just for younger children, it's also for older children and teenagers too. Parents may find out that this is suitable for all ages. It contains little or no violence and little and no bad dialogue. TVPG means parental guidance. There may be some content that may not be suitable for younger and older children. It may contain some language, violence and humor that may not be suitable for children and teenagers. Parents must think before letting their kids and teenagers see it. TV14 means that this program may not be suitable for children under 14. It contains medium language, violence, blood, crude humor, dangerous acts, bad material, and many more. Parents must take strong caution before letting kids and teenagers see this show. TVMA means that this content is not for kids and teenagers. This content is for mature adults only. It contains gigantic violence, foul language, huge crude humor, inappropriate and dangerous acts, bad material, and much more. Only adults can see this. No kids and teenagers are allowed. And that's all.
I mean, he's in Florida. What?
All ratings are off. Everything's geared towards 13-year-olds in Florida. It doesn't even matter.
Exactly. It's all geared towards Florida men. Florida men watches this.
Well, it's the Homer Simpson clip of like, I'm aged this thing to this. Everyone cares what I matter.
Well, let's put it this way, because like I've let my girls watch like the DC superhero girls cartoon. They're
Okay, cool.
3 and 4. They grew up watching 2 and 3. But I mean, again, there is adult humor in it. There is violence.
Yeah.
But it's in a very cartoonish way, and like you said, the themes can be translated across age. If I sit down and explain them to some of it, other stuff they just get by themselves intuitively. So, I don't even know what that rating would be for that show, though. I don't think it's like Y. I think it's above. It'd probably be like a G if I had to guess.
So when your girls watched Legend of Korra, did they think she was a lesbian at the end, or were they?
Oh, they knew right off the bat. They were like, why is she wasting her time?
What, with Mako?
Yeah, with Mako.
Okay. I just want to be clear about where we're landing on their point of view.
We have some discussions about their homophobia at this stage.
I don't want them to be canceled 20 years from now for being like, oh, apparently your father said this on a podcast. And she's like, no, that wasn't what I was saying at the time.
Well, no. She'll have disowned her parents by that point. That is not a shot at you, Kareem. I just assume all parents will be disowned.
I mean, they'll be teenagers and teenage girls. From what I've watched a lifetime, they're the worst.
They're the ones you got to watch the most because they'll break your trust by, being fooled.
Or killing us in our sleep. I've seen them in the disc tapes.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Well, man, they weren't teenagers. Let's all calm down.
It's because they were watching DC girls and DC superheroes.
You know what DC superheroes taught me? Shoot my parents with a shotgun. That was a weird episode.
Yeah. Damn Batgirl.
Why's it gotta be Batgirl?
She's the only one without powers. She had to use a weapon.
That's a fair point. Yeah. She was gonna need the weapon.
All right, so we have a rating system that Ken brought up. Yeah. And so now I guess we just have to try to apply it to the shows because, like I said, Invincible isn't like a comic that you have to like hide on the shelf. Like if a 14-year-old walked in the comic shop, you'd sell them that comic, right? And it's almost just as graphic in the comic, the violence and the themes, as it is on the show.
So I mean, it depends on the comic shop owner and who's running it and who's selling books. Because there are definitely times where I've been, if especially if the parent's there and the parent is like, oh, we want to get him this, I will let the parent know quietly, so not to put the parent on the spot. I'll be like, by the way, this is rated this. You might want to think about that. And I'll give them a context. I'll be like, oh, it's comic book violence. There's no adult themes in terms of this. There's this. If with Invincible, I would definitely let them know because of the level of violence. And then also we do get, I mean, I guess there's context within the show later on in the comics that bringing it up to a child, to a 13-year-old, I would definitely, I would let them know, this is what's in there. It's your choice what to make if you want to get it for them. That's definitely something where I would be like, hey, I would inform the parent. But then I for sure know that there'd be people who are just like, cool, comic, get out of here. Unless it shows nudity, I think there are clerks out there who would just be like, whatever, that's fine. If it does show nudity, I'm sure that at that point they would hopefully pull some punches.
This is what animation's fighting against in general, and comic books are still under, which is, this is a comic, this is drawn. It's for kids. It doesn't matter. It's for kids. It's fine. It's like every couple of years, going back to Adult Swim, some parent of some sort discovers Adult Swim exists and has a nervous breakdown. Like, how could they be showing this on a cartoon show? Like clockwork every couple of years. And everybody goes, yeah, no, it's been here. It's literally called Adult Swim. A lot of people do not pay attention to animation because they deem it as kid stuff. That's changing, especially with like our generation and younger, because it's viewed as a more robust art form, let's say. Like there are more comic books
more accessible.
Geared toward, but there are more comic books geared towards adults. There are more, all of those things that were considered kid stuff geared towards an older audience.
Okay. And like I said, I feel like it's just becoming, the lines are becoming more blurred, which is probably, why we brought up this topic, is that for a lot of the medium that we're watching, there's been, previous versions of it that have been accessible, at least without the age restrictions or barriers that we put on for like television. So like, you know, the Batman the animated series versus like Harley Quinn, like those characters have been in comics. They've been doing the things that they're doing on on these shows. And you know, I wouldn't say young kids, but you know, we were young enough to read the comics and read through the violence, read through stuff like the Killing Joke and stuff, you know, whatnot, at a young age. And then you put it into an animated film, and now it's like, all right, now it needs a rating, and now kids can't watch it for some reason.
Yeah.
So
well, and to speak to the rating things too, that's kind of that's why comics did have the Comics Code Authority. They enforced that rating somewhat on themselves so that they could be like, hey, look, you're safe because of the witch hunts of the 70s and 80s of just like, let's just cut this off at the beginning. By the way, DC Superhero Girls is TV PG, just for point of reference.
Which one though?
That's the one that its parental guidance is recommended. It's inappropriate for young children.
Which DC superhero? Because there's two versions. One is super cartoonish, and then there's the more adult one by something Frost or whatever. I think
one is way adult. A lot of nudity.
Yeah. This is for the first one. I don't have reference yet on the second series, which bears the same name, but it is a far more cartoony design.
It's a far more. That's what I'm saying. But
yeah,
we have to be, and I'll put some clips on to show the difference, because the first one is very tame, so to speak, compared to the one that's on Netflix.
Is it on Netflix? Okay, so Netflix, I could pull that up right now.
Yeah.
Stopping the superhero girls.
You've got nothing on the Teen Titans.
We've got a Green Lantern and a Supergirl. What do you have? He's got nothing, yo.
We straight garbage, girl.
The one on Netflix is the one that my girls watch, which is I feel like the more adult theme than that first one.
Be TVMA.
By the way, if you'd like to, it is on HBO Max. If you'd like for them to see the original, that's more tame.
We tried watching that. We all got bored.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just putting it out there.
I think the problem was that we ended up watching the Netflix one first, and they got used to that animation style and those characters and the voices and stuff. So when I was like, oh, look at this one, because the other one has more characters. It's a lot slower. It's more, I think, actually probably more their age range anyway. And they were like, oh, this is boring.
So the newer one is TVYA, so young children 7 and up.
Yeah,
kids are so mature.
So in the leveling of ratings, where's YA versus PG? Is that just underneath it or above?
Below PG is a notch below TVY. So it goes PG, PG, Y7.
Okay, because you're moving your hands down. So
I'm going down. Yeah, no, I should be going up as an age. I apologize.
Okay.
No, you go down to the floor because you're dirtier.
Well, because I wonder, like, at one point did they just say parents don't even bother guiding your kids through this? Because you would feel like the parental guidance would be the cap on, like, all right, at this point you're like 14, 15, you can watch whatever you want at this point. But it seems like they stopped at 7. It's like, parents, don't worry about it. Once your kid's 7 years old, they can watch porn all they want.
No, because once they get to 7, so it's I'm going back. Once it's 7, then it goes. Oh, see, that doesn't make any sense now. Because you still have the TV 14, because that's the next barometer up.
Well, that's the Wild West, the Wild West of cartoons.
Well, no, because they're still MA. So
no, that's just straight hentai.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw another. I want to throw another pipe bomb into the rating system because it's dumb.
Awesome.
King of the Hill.
Get old. Maybe I'll just get a cat. Although I hear they eat you after you die.
Well, lucky for you, the Japanese are developing robots. Sexy robots to care for the elderly. Thank God for that tiny, perverted, technologically advanced nation.
Ooh.
It's clearly an adult-oriented cartoon. Not in that it's adult content, but it is made for grown-ups. It is very clearly made. It's TV PG for most episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I thought that would have been
fine.
like Y14 or whatever.
It's fine for like a kid could watch it, but it's not geared towards them at all. The themes, the way it's going to approach everything is geared towards an adult audience.
Oh yeah, they'd zone out for sure.
Yeah. They don't like propane or propane accessories, which is their loss.
Propane and propane accessories.
Oh, I tell you what.
That was such an amazing show too.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Oh man, it's phenomenal. It's a show that I didn't give its due at the time because
Neither did
I thought it was like, oh, it's cartoons for hicks. I don't need to watch this. But yes, I was that crass at that time. I was also a lot younger.
He was in the TVY7 crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't get into it, but then on later retrospection, I've heard other podcasts and shows kind of talk about it, and I've gone back, and this show it's far more intelligent than I gave it credit where I thought it was going to be, and it's definitely worth a look back at it. And
we'll have to do a series on it because I was on the same boat, not for the same reasons, but I came to it very late too because I was adverse to Beavis and Butthead, and so that animation style plus the creator of it, I was like, you know what, I'm good. If that's the type of mentality that this cartoon is going to be shown to, and I was like, all right, I'm good. It wasn't until I think we were early 20s, Pat, or whatever. Pat and I and our friend were roommates. That we got into it, and was like you said, like the nuance of it was amazing, and I think it's something that Mike Judge does well. Having, what is it, Idiocracy was the other thing that he had done too, where he kind of like turns a lens on something while also using it as the storytelling device.
Office Space too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. That is him as well. Yeah. Well, Office Space is just a love letter to destroying the entire corporate system that, unfortunately, you're not allowed to telecommute. Just come into the office. All right, guys?
Yeah, we're going to need you to come into the office for this one.
Yeah, you're going to have to come in all days now.